Okay, good morning, everybody. I hope that you're doing well. Today I'm going to be talking to you about aging out of the foster care system. So, aging out is at 18 to 21 years old. These kids are dumped by the system. They are given limited support, and they just have trouble transitioning effectively. So, my thesis is that we must support youth aging out of the foster care system in their transition to independent living and to educate them to give them all the tools they need in order to survive and become successful adults. So I have an audio clip by this guy named Noel Anaya, but I'm not going to play it because I've done this presentation like 12 times and I'm like 40 seconds over. So I'm just not going to even bother because I've cut out so much already. But basically, I can post it if you'd like to hear it. It's really powerful, but he just talks about how the system is like, it feels gray, it feels impersonal. He's had tons of caseworkers, tons of lawyers, tons of foster families, tons of he's lived in tons of different group homes, and he's always felt like, don't I deserve a family? How does someone like me, I'm a good person, how do I not get adopted? So I just think that's a powerful reminder that we can do better, and there needs to be more personability and more accountability. There are many negative effects to being pretty much dumped by the system, aside from mental health issues, which are plentiful. There's also 46% interviewed. They reported a lack of ability to obtain health care. They weren't covered by Medicaid, what have you. There was also 33% have reported homelessness upon leaving. Sorry, that was my mom. 33% have reported homelessness upon leaving, and 36% have reported homelessness at some point. 41% have actually been in jail since leaving the system. 38% had children, and these are 18 to 21-year-olds, and 38% of them had children, and over 70% had experienced pregnancy right after aging out, and it had either been terminated via miscarriage or abortion. 41% had a lack of funds to meet their basic needs. They couldn't afford food, they couldn't afford basic hygiene products, that kind of stuff. And 50% did not graduate high school upon aging out. So these stressors interact with each other, they increase each other. Like, if you don't graduate high school, you might not get a job that can afford for you to pay for your basic needs, or you might not get a job that will give you healthcare, and then you might end up homeless, or you might commit crimes. So in that way, these stressors, like, they build on each other. It's a never-ending cycle. And as a result, they turn to drugs and alcohol, a lot of them, to cope. So a common theme that I don't know if you can read that. A common theme that I've noticed is that nobody cares what happens to me, is this feeling that these kids have. They think that they're just a number. You can see that with Noel. Even his caseworker, she says his name Noel over and over. Noel Anaya. It's infuriating. Like, that's his name. That's his identity. Get it right. There was another girl, her name's Roberta, she's from California, she was in a case study. She felt that if she had stayed with her abusive father, he beat her, but he would have taught her how to get a job, he would have taught her how to pay the bills. So she thought she would be better off there than on the streets. So studies such as the one run by Elizabeth Mann suggest that, like, these risky outcomes, those statistics, can be avoided by having a support system, like a trustworthy adult. Even the smallest support system makes a difference. The Family and Youth Initiative in Washington, D.C. actually connects youth with mentors or host parents that will take them on trips and invite them for the weekend, and they will do stuff like they'll go kayaking or hiking, and they'll talk about real stuff. So if you think about it, these kids, they're in our age group and they're being expected to make it on their own. And I don't know about you guys, but when I'm at school, I call my mom like 5 times a day. Like, literally, about the smallest things. Like, Mom, how many Tide Pods do I use? Can I put 2 dryer sheets in? Is that going to start a fire? Like, that kind of stuff. So I just can't imagine, like, having to do everything on your own, having to find an apartment, having to pay rent. Yeah, I can barely take care of myself with a support system. So my next slide is about solutions. I have a book called Foster Youth Share Their Ideas for Change. In other words, these are the ideas of the people being directly affected. They have asked for more like localized, more specialized independent living programs that will give them things such as teach them about personal hygiene, teach them about sex education, teach them professionalism, job etiquette, that kind of stuff. There's a bunch more things on here, like leadership. They want to know how to be confident in themselves. There's also, they need help with housing. I didn't think about this. I don't know if you think about this, but it's like, even at Siena, you pay for room and board. It's astronomical. You pay to live there, and then during breaks, you're kicked out. And if you don't have a home, if you don't have a family home, you have nowhere to go. And then also, they they need help affording first, last, and down on an apartment. So they want there to be funds for stuff like this. And also support in transportation, because there's a lot of kids that are walking like miles. They're walking 45 minutes. They're spending an hour and a half on the bus just to get to work. So those are some ideas they had that would help make this better. Help these kids feel that they're not alone, that they're better equipped to handle themselves, they're better equipped to take on the world. So my naysayer, these are a little rough, so if you have any ideas, please don't hesitate to comment them. But here's what I found in my journal. If you have an idea, I'll try to find like a source that goes with it. But to some, it's the notion that like 21-year-olds or even 18-year-olds need help from adult. Like, that seems silly. Like, there are plenty of 21-year-olds that make it on their own, so why shouldn't these? And while that might be true for a lot of them, for a lot of 21-year-olds, a lot of them come from homes that are taught them how to handle themselves as they grew up. And also, there's like an alarming number of people, even if there are some that do well, there's an alarming number of kids that don't and that need this help, and we can do better. And this will end the cycle. This will help end the cycle of poverty and the cycle of pumping the foster care system full of more people. And then I had another point that in Elizabeth Amon's study, she noted that identifying supportive relationships doesn't mean that these kids are going to turn to them for help in times of crisis and in like turning points in their lives. And a lot of them feel that they're on their own. And I will say that this is very true. Many feel that, like, by flying solo, so to speak, they can equate that with being strong and being independent and being ready to live on their own and not needing the system anymore. But data suggests that by supporting these young adults from the get-go, they'll actually be more confident in themselves to make their own decisions. They'll be less nervous, and they'll have more success in their adult life, which will also end the cycle of pumping the foster care system with more children and the cycle of like inherited poverty. So that's all I have for you guys. So thank you for listening. Yeah, have a good one.